takes the lead in the UCLA quarterback derby. Now, going to see a quarterback derby at UCLA for the first time in 5 years, right? Chip Kelly, also knows from quarterbacks. Very excited to see how he divvies up reps and who comes out looking the best. And we've got really, I think, just 2 guys competing for the job, maybe 3, but I'm just going to run through those really quick. UCLA is going to have Colin Schlee, who grad transfers from Kent State, played quarterback over there for Sean Lewis, who is the new offensive coordinator at Colorado. He's got Ethan Garbers, who was the backup quarterback on last year's UCLA team. He's got Chase Griffin there as well. And then they added, I think, the best quarterback on the West Coast in the 2023 class, or playing on the West Coast in 2023 class, in Dante Moore. Look, no disrespect to anybody else playing quarterback at UCLA, but if you've seen Dante Moore sling it, you understand why so many Bruins fans are very excited to see him play and play right away. I think they're going to give him as many opportunities as they can to try to go win this job. And you have a backup plan in Ethan Garbers and Colin Schlee, but they're losing so much here. And this is the other reason why I think that they want Dante Moore to take the job as quickly as he can, or if he doesn't, somebody else. Because you're not just losing Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who started for 5 years, had 69.6% completion percentage, 3,169 pass yards, 27 TDs, and 10 INTs just last year. You're also losing your best tailback in Zach Charbonnet, who I think quietly was outstanding. 1,300 yards rushing, 7 yards per carry, over 1,600 yards from scrimmage, 7.2 yards from scrimmage. That's a weapon that you lost. And you lose your best wide receiver, Jake Bobo, who had 57 catches for 817 yards. You need your quarterback sorted out so you can find out who the rest of your playmakers are going to be in this all-important season for you. Like SC, that's a Big Ten team come 2024, right? That's how we're going to be talking about them. Like Oklahoma and Texas in the Big 12, so much of the Pac-12 storylines are going to be around USC and UCLA and what they can do in a conference that they helped build in their last season. I think if you could set Dante Moore up to be that guy going into 2023 and then have a year underneath his belt when they go play Big Ten competition, that's going to help you so much down the line. But Chip Kelly's really good at this. I expect him to give everybody a fair shake and let these guys' talent really show us what's really good. I'm excited about what their season could hope for too. I'm also looking at this, and I need to point out that Colin Schlee is not leftovers here, right? 59% completion last year, 2,100 yards passing, 13 TDs, 5 interceptions. And again, played for Sean Lewis at Colorado, and that offense just operated at warp speed. So if anybody knows how to go quick, it'd be that guy. One more thing to go out on Dante Moore here. He is the highest rated quarterback recruit in the history of the program at UCLA, according to 247 Sports' composite, which is the industry standard. And he led his high school team to back-to-back state championships with nearly 10,000 yards, 135 touchdowns, and 20 interceptions. Again, I can't stress to you enough, this dude can absolutely spin it. Whether he starts right away or later, we're all going to be delighted by what we see. Okay, next question that I have is a little bit broader. Does Washington, Oregon, or Colorado have enough to dethrone Utah and challenge USC, right? I think there's a lot of different ways to go at this, but for Washington, it's hold what you got, right? They lose both guards in the center off of last year's team, and it's the first time since 2019 that they're going to have to replace more than 2 starters on that offensive line at Montlake. Like that's not an easy lift there. They also are spreading their practices out over, like I said, spring season. They're doing 15 practices over 47 days. Sure, I guess. Like, spring football is all over the map. Some people are almost done with it. I think Michigan plays their spring game like next week or whatever. Whatever you got to do. But if you are Washington over the course of these 47 days and you're walking into the locker room, I would have on the whiteboard 40 to UCLA. 45 to Arizona State. That's the difference between who we are and who we want to be. That would just chat me to no end. Those losses separate you from being perfect, right? You go beat up on Oregon or you win that game, right? It's also a year in which they didn't have to play SC. I'm also looking at this going, Ryan Grubb had an opportunity to go to Alabama. He's staying put as the offensive coordinator at Washington. Kalen DeBoer and Michael Penix Jr. are getting back, or excuse me, Kalen DeBoer is getting back Michael Penix Jr. Look, 4,600 yards passing, 31 TDs, 8 interceptions. It ain't broke. Don't try to fix it. Throw it deep to Roma Dunze. Throw it deep to Jalen McMillan and see if you can't put up 45 a game, because when it's going well for those folks in Seattle, it's going really, really well. Very excited about what they could do in this Pac-12. My goodness, that dude can spin it, man. I mean, the way that he just launches into a football is always going to be awesome. That is because I'm basically seeing it coming at me because he's left-handed, right? It's a lot of Tua Tagovailoa over there. So next question that I had in that was, can Oregon do this, right? Oregon, who lost that game to Washington. Now, the whiteboard for Oregon should read something like, Oregon State and Washington are losses in the same year. Those are your rivals. Those two teams you got to beat every single year. That can't happen. The Georgia thing, I think we're all just kind of throwing that one out. Not just because it was so lopsided and it felt just awe-inspiring, but because it did not turn out to be who Oregon was. Turned out Oregon is a good football team, and they returned many of the pieces that made them good last year. It's not just Bo Nix. It's not just Troy Franklin. It's also Bucky Irving. It's also Noah Whittington. And then defensively, I think they have an opportunity to get better. So you're adding Will Stein to the offense after Kenny Dillingham got the job at Arizona State as the head coach. Will Stein is an up-and-coming offensive coordinator. He did great things at UTSA. Really helped Frank Harris, who's going into his 7th year at UTSA, play at college football, become a household name, if not in San Antonio, not Texas, then in San Antonio. But I'm looking at the defense, and that's what you got to fix, because that's the difference between being a great football team as opposed to being a good football team. You're losing Noah Sewell off of that defense, who is the last guy at Oregon to notch 100 tackles in a season, and he didn't do that last year. As a matter of fact, I was looking at this. Only 2 men since 2018 have notched 100 tackles at Oregon. One of them is Noah Sewell. The other one is Troy Dye. But you're going to get better up front on that defensive line. You're adding a 5-star in Jordan Birch, who held the recruiting world hostage a couple years ago by just refusing to sign his national letter of intent. And I'm also looking at this going, man, y'all had an opportunity to have 2 of the better edge rushers of the last 2 years on the same football team at South Carolina, but it is what it is. Nick Harbor is who you get. You're going to lose Jordan Birch. But Jordan Birch is also going to be added to 6'3", 290-pound Brandon Dorless, who I think could be one of the best edge defenders in all of college football next season. Look, 9.5 tackles for loss, 39 total tackles, and then you're going to get something out of Mace Funa. I say that because we're still waiting to get a lot out of Mace Funa. In a year where you don't, again, have Noah Sewell and Justin Flo, who's transferred to Arizona, let's find out who your leaders are. I think you really are deep at the boundary corner position with Kyrie Jackson and Dante Manning. Very excited about those 2 dudes dueling it out. Looking forward to seeing which one of those guys shows themselves to be the starter, at least this spring, and then we'll get to fall camp, see how that goes. Now, the last team that I mentioned in that question is Colorado. Can Colorado dethrone Utah and USC is one way of putting it. But the way I think of Colorado in this year is like M'Baku in Black Panther as a walking stress test, okay? When things feel like they are unmoored, right? The Pac-12 conference is at a crossroads, both inside and outside of football. They are also losing 2 blue blood programs in USC and UCLA to the Big Ten. They've got the Heisman winner, but they don't have a team in the college football playoff. And here comes Colorado, who could either take advantage of all this chaos and ascend to the top, or demonstrate that perhaps the Pac-12 is much deeper than we think. So on Challenge Day, which is 2023 for the Pac-12, let's see if M'Baku, Colorado, can actually go at Utah and or USC, who they have this year, but also they're going to have some really interesting games all year long, not to mention Texas Christian's on their schedule and Nebraska's on their schedule. Now, I made this point once, but I'm going to continue to make this point because I keep learning on this job that I just got to keep making the same point over and over again. I don't know why we're not talking about Shedeur Sanders as being a great quarterback. And I'm really trying to understand why so many people not only discount Colorado, but don't respect Colorado because of what happened last year. Now, traditions being traditions and all of that, but I thought we threw all that out when we got in new head coaches, when we brought in new players. And now with the quarterback, let me put it this way. Shedeur Sanders threw for 3,732 yards, 40 TDs, and 6 INTs in 2022. Here's the list of QBs who threw for at least 3,500 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions or fewer in FBS in 2022. Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud. The Heisman winner, the dude that nearly took Georgia's head off and is probably going to get drafted in the first round of this year's NFL draft, if not the number 1 overall pick. That's the list, guys. All right. RJ, Shedeur did this at Jackson State. That's an FCS school. Anybody could do that. Oh. Yo, Siri, who are the FCS quarterbacks who threw for 3,500 yards, 40 TDs, and 6 INTs or fewer? Shedeur Sanders. That's the list, guys. Lindsey Scott Jr. is not on that list. Okay? Anybody else you want to throw out? They're not on this list. It's Shedeur Sanders. It's Caleb Williams. It's CJ Stroud. Now, all you're going to demonstrate by telling me that Shedeur Sanders played at Jackson State is your bias. Last time I checked, everybody has a good football program, right? That shows up and wins championships. Jackson State has won the SWAC the last 2 years. Okay? Follow win short, really a pass short because tight end dropped the pass in the end zone from winning the national championship last year for Jackson State. I'm getting kind of antsy about this because I'm trying to see to your side. And your side is you just don't like him. You just don't like Prime. You just don't like what Colorado is doing. And I love it because it's football and it's fun. And those dudes have won everywhere they go. But even if I didn't want to just harp on Shedeur Sanders and Coach Prime, I could point you to, oh, goodness me. They add Cormani McClain. They add Travis Hunter, who we'll talk about in some depth here in a little bit. They also add Sean Lewis. They add Charles Kelly, who was 247's best recruiter in the 2023 cycle. Helped Alabama put together their class before becoming the defensive coordinator at Colorado. Sean Lewis is there for a reason. They want to go warp speed. They want to put it on people. I'm saying here, man, like, I think they have what it takes to at least challenge SC, to challenge Utah later in the year, to challenge national runner-up Texas Christian. Our sport is weird because you can finish as a national finalist and people will write you off like people have done Texas Christian, and or you can win the SWAC, go undefeated through the regular season, and then people will tell you that now you're playing big boy football. Man, I don't know where we get this from, but there's a part of me that sees arrogance. Not just arrogance, but we don't like greatness. And I love greatness, right? I like watching people play, even as I have my own thing against excellence. When I see people doing things that I simply cannot do, I'm awe-inspired. That's why I love the sport, all right? Now, as far as the spring is concerned, the question that I had, which kind of 2 parts here, is how many people are going to show up to the Colorado game, and what is the atmosphere going to be like for their spring game? Because they sold out their tickets in February for their spring game. 31,000 people have already decided they want to go see what's good at Folsom in April, which in and of itself is a feat, right? I think if the stadium could hold 90,000, they might get close to it because there are people that aren't Colorado fans who are very interested in Colorado Buffalo football. And many of them are folks like me who know Colorado football for Rashaan Salam, for / Cordell Stewart. From Michael Westbrook coming over to Ty Law's head. Yeah, I said it. And really, we ain't had nothing to say good about Colorado in about 15 years. But all of a sudden, they had a need. They needed a face. They needed a name. They needed somebody that needed to be needed. And now you got Prime out there with a black cowboy hat on telling people you got to earn your numbers. Ooh, boy. You want to talk about old school? Prime going on rants talking about, hey, look, I got dudes out here that want to wear number 1 and ain't done nothing on a football field. It used to be, and you're right, to get the number 1, you had to be somebody. Like, usually, coach got to hand you that jersey. You don't get to go get that jersey. He got dudes out here going, I want number 1. For what, son? You done nothing? I'm with it. And I'm saying, if you're a purist, if you're a traditionalist, if you're old school, if you're an old head, how are you not a fan of what's going on at Colorado? All right. So outside of that, Shedeur Sanders, Kamani McLean, Travis Hunter. The question I have is, who the hell is behind Shedeur Sanders? And I don't mean to be that cold about it, but I'm going to mention these names to you. You're going to tell me in the Twitters at Number One Show who you heard of. Colton Allen, Drew Carter, Ryan Staub. Okay, only one of those guys played football at Colorado last year, okay? And it was Drew Carter, who was 5 of 12 for 35 yards as a freshman. I'm scared of what Colorado might be if Shedeur Sanders can't go, because he might be more important to their fortune than Caleb Williams is to USC's. And Caleb Williams is out there on one leg trying to win football games rather than putting in a perfectly healthy Miller Moss. Let that sit with you for a while. He might be more important to them than Cam Rising is at Utah because he's that good. Again, 3,500, 40 TDs, fewer than 6, 3 dudes across 2 divisions. He's one of them. All right. Thank you for watching the Number One College Football Show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.